Moving on, Valve update the major with closed qualifiers. Did you see that? Did you see that little bit? That's been out for a little bit now, so that's going to be interesting how they've gone ahead and updated it. But the real juicy nugget that just dropped actually is the fact that Valve have gone ahead and actually revealed some information about how they're going to set up their regional standings. So this was something that was brought up when they talked about the major closed qualifiers, is that there would be invites for those closed qualifiers. The open qualifiers would feed into the closed qualifiers that then feed into the RMRs, and then you go from there. But of course, how do you determine the invites? And so, were they going to be using HLTV? Were they going to use ESL? Valve have said in the past that they don't want to use third-party systems, that they don't want to endorse a third-party ranking system, and so that's why they didn't have a ranking system or invites. Well, to address that issue now, Valve have gone ahead and have unveiled their first ranking system and kind of given you some information as to how the whole thing works. So I'll go ahead and read here. The developers have revealed that the ranking is based on 3 factors: a team's prize money earned, their beaten opponent's prize money earned, and teams beaten, and head-to-head results. So of course, Valve have come up, Valve speaking Valve, basically focusing on the money. So naturally, that's the perfect way for them to do things, is to just focus on the money.
Fucked it. Yeah, they fucked it right out the gate. Brilliant.
And said the exact formula will be public in the coming weeks. So they are going to reveal the exact formula as to how all of this gets calculated. So you'll be able to calculate stuff and double check and make sure that there's no curmudgeonry going on. But there was a side-by-side that was put up by Dust2 US. Decent bit of information, i.e. putting a side-by-side comparison of HLTV's top 30s with Valve standings and ESL world rankings.
I'm going to give you immediately.
And it wasn't totally wildly off, at least at a glance, not wildly
quite similar.
off. But okay, let's hear it.
I'll give you immediately a reason this is bad.
Okay.
So do you remember, like, when Heroic won Blast Fall Finals, they actually had won another LAN that year. Did you know that? Because no one knows this. They won a tournament that was in Sweden. It was in June. It was called the Pinnacle Championship. It was a LAN.
Holy moly.
Are you ready? First place for that LAN was $150,000. So what they've now done with this stupid system, Semmler, is you're now incentivized to farm tournaments like that because you'll just get points. Remember, prize money factors into this. Well, if you don't know, 150K, I think first place in ESL Pro League is at 175K. So you just go, you beat Astralis big and finesse.
That is a salient point.
This is why when you make systems, I've explained this a million fucking times, but no one listens. That's why I'm esports and y'all just watch esports. Because what you do when you make a system is you first of all think, what am I selecting for? Like, what would the best team in the world be? What would be the metrics? Now, prize money wouldn't be it, Semmler, because this isn't like a circuit like Formula One where we all play every stop. If that was the case, you could do something like that. Instead, prize money, we all know in Counter-Strike, famously, WESG, there used to be like 600K for first place for that, which is way more than like a DreamHack Masters. But which do we care about more, WSG or DreamHack Masters? Obviously, it was DreamHack Masters. So that's a flaw already. And the reason I hate this is the first thing you would do when you put a system like that is you don't have to launch it. You can try some test runs, can't you? You put in a few different people's data and you go, does that seem off? Does that seem like where they were this year? They didn't do it. As usual, you just make it. And sadly, every ranking system does this. You make some shitty ranking that hasn't been thought through. You push it out the door and you wait for me to do your quality control, and you wait for the community to do your quality control, and you wait for someone to write an article and someone to compare it and someone to explain to you, the person who owns Counter-Strike, why what you've done doesn't make sense. Like, why not just do it right from the beginning, you fucking idiots?
You know? They don't have a public beta tester. You know, they don't have they don't test things because nobody would do the testing anyway, so they'd rather just push everything live and then see how it goes, right? You know, nobody remembers a certain revolver.
I will agree though, if you look at the comparison image, like it looks close enough that it's probably, put it this way, this should still be way better than the old system we had of just playing RMRs and qualifying. It should be way better than that. It should just be way better than that.
That was the takeaway that I had when I took a glance at it, was that, I mean, it's like you're still in the same wheelhouse. You're still in the same ballpark of standings. You know, you're maybe off a couple here or there. You know, like Vitality, for example, are 10th on HLTV, whereas they're ranked 7th on Valve standings. So, you know, you're off by like 2 or 3 slots, but you're still in the general vicinity. And in the top, I mean, ESL are smoking crack. They've got Liquid as the second best team in the world. But you know, Heroic is still number 1 across all 3 of these. And Outsiders in G2 are just changing spots between 2nd and 3rd, between HLTV and Valve. So, you know, I mean, at a glance, it seemed like it could work. But that's a real. It's actually a fantastic point that you make in the sense that you could actually just nip out, grab a quick tournament. You know, just show it. Just be a top 5 team. Maybe you need to make sure that you're really guaranteeing it. You hop out, you win a quick tournament, make an extra $100,000, add that to the tally, and move on. That could be really. Do you think actually?
This way, remember what I said about Astralis? This example already happened for Katowice. Well, it could also be bad though. Like, for example, think of what I said about Astralis, where the reason Astralis isn't going to be at Katowice is because Evil Geniuses and Pain played in NA Cash Cup and finished top 4. An unrelated tournament, neither. Astralis can't even enter that in a Cash Cup. They're not from NA. So the problem here is this, Semmler. If someone's very shrewd, like, look, I doubt it's as simple because it contains multiple factors, not just prize money. It's not as simple as, you know, you play this tournament, you automatically get more. But there probably will be ways to finagle it. Like, if I'm the team on the border of getting into, like, an invite spot, maybe I can look, like you're saying, on this calendar and go, ooh, there is a tournament 2 weeks before, though, that's in, like, you know, wherever, Dubai. It's got 100K. It's got a couple of tier 1 teams. Maybe I go and win that, and that gets me in. Now, you could argue maybe that one day could actually break the ESL Blast monopoly. Yeah, maybe that could be good. But
that's the
in
point.
the short term, I could see people, especially if you're a big org with the money, that's also a clever way you can just sort of ensure you qualify, maybe.
I guess the way potentially to counter this is that they're beaten opponents' prize
That's
money
good.
earned.
I like that a lot.
Right, so that could be the way they're trying to balance it out, where it's like if you go and get that tier 2 money, well, you're playing against tier 2 opponents, so sure you're going to
still get points though. You will still get points. That's my point.
No, but here's the thing: not as much.
That's actually a way better factor though, because one thing I hate is when, like, if you notice, when I used to do my world ranking, that's why I would put which ranked opponents they beat during that time span. Because I do think it's not about placing; it's about who you beat as well. Like, placings are all right, but if you have some powder puff run, and who gives a fuck? Whereas if you actually beat like this G2 win, mate, they beat some really good teams to win this fucking land. They should get good points for that.
That is the big the takeaway from this that I have following all of this is that this could actually be the way for TOs to actually entice tier 1 teams to come and compete in their tournaments, because otherwise what's the motivation for any of the tier 1 teams to compete outside of ESL and Blast? Probably nil. You know, it's like you're just going to be focusing on
but it's just if you don't qualify, that's all it is, as far as I can tell. Like, as far as I know, the reason the Pinnacle was a tournament that someone like Heroic was going to with smaller teams is because they probably at that point in time, like, just had some time off and they hadn't done well in a bunch, like, hadn't done well in Pro League or some shit like that, you know, something like that. I can't remember what order it was in. I think it was just after IM Dallas, maybe.
It's not gonna be the easiest thing to get that sort of thing done in the future, regardless. I mean, the calendar is so full now between Blast and ESL and the majors. Between those 3 factors, finding any time at all to compete in other tournaments, man, it's a fucking it's a struggle by the looks of things. So this is that was one of the I mean, we'll obviously be keeping an eye on it because this is going to be what determines how things work out for the Blast Paris major that is coming up at the beginning of next year, or beginning May. But yeah, this is definitely something we got to keep an eye on. So interesting to see that Valve are going to be taking more of a hand in things, because they've said themselves in the past that they just don't want to involve they don't want to involve developers in CS management 1 inch more than is absolutely necessary, because the opportunity cost for Valve, again, it's always worth reminding everybody, it's the opportunity cost for Valve, for a Valve dev to spend any time at all on esports is a net loss for Valve. Always. They will never make enough money on esports to make it worthwhile to take them off of working on the Steam marketplace, because the Steam marketplace makes an absolute obscene amount of money. And so it's always a loss for Valve to do anything esports. So for them to get this involved is actually kind of a sign of Valve all of a sudden really showing interest, like actually showing interest, if they're willing to commit some hours into this kind of project, keeping tabs on CS. So we try to find the nuggets where we can. We try to find the silver lining where we can.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.